Hi everyone, welcome for today's video for GCRE Education. So this is Social Studies 8. And we're going to learn about Native Americans. Well, we're going to do the introduction and we're going to learn about the Arctic, okay? So this had learning about Native Americans, there's so much topics. So I feel like it's not fair that they only get a single lesson. So we're going to have an entire unit on this. So that's what we're going to do. So this is a map of Native American tribes. We're going to learn about this area over here. Learn about this area. We're going to learn, and I'm not going to spoil other areas for you, because those are going to be surprises. But those are going to be in later videos. You see this bar, it's because it was from an unlisted video that I made. This was part of the video about of our colonial heritage in TCI subscription. So yeah. So yeah, anyways, this is a map of Native American tribes. We're gonna learn about every single tribe that's in this map in some point. So there's gonna be plenty of information to learn about. So today we're gonna learn about this over here. So we're going to do TCI history alive in the United States through industrialism. We're going to read pages 4 to 10, plus extra information about the Native Americans. So that's what we're going to be learning today. As a cold winter wind howls outside, the children huddle under thick fur blankets. They listen to their grandmother's soothing voice tell about a great spirit who ruled over a world of sky and water at the beginning of time. Then the Great Spirit says grandmother created land, plants, and animals. Finally, from living wood, the Great Spirit carved people for the new world. These Abenaki children of New England are learning a traditional story about how their people began. Most groups have beliefs about where they came from. You may have heard stories about how your own relatives first arrived in the United States. But do you know where your ancestors were living 10,000 years ago? Only if you were American Indian did you have relatives in the United States that long ago. Europeans and other groups didn't establish permanent settlements in North America until a little more than 500 years ago. For thousands of years, the first Americans had the American continents to themselves. In this lesson, you will learn about these resourceful people and the creative ways they adapted to their environment. Even today, scientists are still trying to find out more about the first Americans. These early people left few written records, so researchers study other items they left behind. Not much has survived except for a few animal and human bones, some stone and metal tools, and bits of pottery. Scientists sift through these clues, trying to imagine how they lived and how their lives changed over time. They come up with ideas about how American Indians adapted to their physical surroundings. When scientists find a new object, they try to figure out whether it supports their current ideas or suggests new ones. In your lifetime, we will probably learn much more about how the first Americans adapted to their environment and may revise many of our conclusions. The ancient Puebloans, who referred to also referred to as the Anasazi, adapted to their environment by building homes in stone cliffs of the U.S. Southwest. I've actually seen one of these before in person. Um, it, well, it was actually like a miniature model of it, like in a hiking trail, which the hiking trail was kind of like a museum at the same time. So basically, it was kind of like an outdoor museum where you basically hike to see like different hot spots So basically, you would learn different words of Native American languages in the Southwest. It was at Arizona, so that was really cool. And these are some vocabulary words we might learn in this lesson. Scientists believe that the first Americans migrated on foot from Siberia in Asia to present day Alaska. Today, a strip of ocean called the Bering Strait separates Alaska and Asia. But there was a time when a land bridge connected them. About 30,000 years ago, during the last ice age, temperatures fell and much of Earth was covered by glaciers. Was covered by glaciers, sheets of ice up to a mile thick. With water locked up in these glaciers, the level of the oceans dropped an estimated 300 feet. This exposed a wide bridge of land between Asia and North America that scientists call Beringia. In the summer, Beringia's grasslands attracted large Asian mammals such as mammoths, which are long-haired cousins of the elephant. Over thousands of years ago, the animals slowly spread eastward, and generations of Siberian hunter families soon followed. Armed with only these stone-tipped spears, they killed these huge, powerful animals for food. Eventually, perhaps between 10,000 and 20,000 years ago, some of the hunters reached America. Other migrants may have traveled along the coast of Beringia by boat to catch fish, seals, and other marine mammals. Once in America, hunters followed the animals south, where spring brought fresh grasses. Then, about 10,000 years ago, Earth warmed again. As the glaciers melted and the oceans rose, the land bridge disappeared. Mammoths and other traditional prey began to die off, perhaps from overhunting. The change in climate or common mammoths and other traditional prey began to die off, perhaps from overhunting, the change in climate, or a combination of the two. The descendants of Siberian hunters had to find new sources of food and new materials for clothing and shelter. These people, now known to us as American Indians, became hunter-gatherers, catching smaller animals, fishing more, and collecting edible plants and seeds. Over thousands of years, they spread across the two American continents, from the Pacific to the Atlantic, and from Alaska all the way to the tip of South America. Scientists believe that the first Americans migrated from Siberia to Alaska across the land bridge called Beringia. These people were following mammoths and other animals that moved east in search of grazing land. So migrate is like to move from one place and establish a home in a new place. A move of large number of people is called a migration, and the people who move there are called migrants. And if you notice about this, you can see that most of Canada were just glaciers during the last ice age, and that Michigan was also just glaciers. And so was the entirety of Greenland. Okay. American Indians lived and continue to live in a variety of places, from snowy forests to dry deserts and vast grasslands. Each of these kinds of places is an environment. An environment includes everything that surrounds us: land, water, animals, and plants. Each environment also has a climate or a long-term weather pattern. Groups of early American Indians survived by adapting or changing their style of living to suit each environment, its climate, and its natural resources. American Indians had a strong connection to their surroundings and viewed themselves as part of the community of plants, animals, and other natural objects. They learned to use the natural resources in their environment for food, clothing, and shelter. By using most or all parts of the plants and animals they took, American Indians were careful to not waste anything. American Indians also learned to modify the land to suit their needs. For example, tribes that lived in the woodlands along the Atlantic Ocean often set fires to clear heavy forest growth so deer could browse and berries could grow. American Indian farmers in the desert built ditches to carry water to dry fields. In the frigid regions of the north, American Indians fashioned homes made of animal skin to protect them from the icy winds. In warmer climates, American Indians gathered wild plants or learned to raise crops such as squash, chili peppers, beans, and corn. Growing their own food enabled them to settle in one place instead of following animals or searching for edible plants in the wild. These early farmers built the first villages and towns in America. Over generations, groups of American Indians developed their own cultures or ways of life. Many became part of larger groupings that were loosely organized under common leaders. Groups living in the same type of environment often adapted in similar ways. Forest dwellers often lived in houses covered with tree bark, and many desert peoples made shelters out of branches covered with brush. By studying artifacts, items made by people, like old American Indian dwellings, historians have grouped American Indian peoples into cultural regions. A cultural region is made up of people who share a similar who share a similar language, that share similar and way of life. By the 1400s, millions of American Indians lived in 10 major cultural regions north of Mexico. In this lesson, you'll take a closer look at 9 of these regions. We're actually going to take a look at more than that. So, that's going to be pretty exciting. So, we're going to have a more detailed version of this lesson. So basically we're going to read some of it, but then like for the Native American tribes mentioned, we're going to have readings about them. So we'll take a look at 9 of these regions. They include the Arctic, Northwest Coast, California, the Great Basin, the Plateau, Southwest, the Great Plains, Eastern Woodlands, and the Southeast. Today we're going to learn about the Arctic. So we're going to learn about more areas later. So these tents in this Inuit camp in northern Alaska were first made from seal and caribou skins. The Inuit used the inflated seal skins hanging from the poles as floats. So yeah, if for the vocabulary, environment is all the physical surroundings in a place, including land, water, animals, plants, and climate. Natural resources are useful materials found in nature, including water, vegetation, animals, and minerals. A culture is a people's way of life, including beliefs, customs, food, dwellings, and clothing. A cultural region is an area in which a group of people share a similar culture and language. And also, the first Americans lived throughout the North American continent. Historians have grouped these people into cultural regions based on their shared languages and ways of life. In addition to the 9 regions mentioned in this lesson, this map shows the subarctic, Mesoamerican, and circum-Caribbean regions, where American Indians lived, also influenced what they wore. the type of housing they built, and the food they ate. These other three maps show examples of this influence for what is now the mainland United States. So, by the way, they mentioned that we're not learning about this, or this. But why do you learn about the Arctic if you're not learning about this area? Basically, we're going to learn about the Arctic and the subarctic, but we just counted both as the Arctic. So, we're learning about these two areas because we think it's important, and I don't know why, but this area is also part of the Arctic, but for some reason they don't count it as part of the Arctic. This is Greenland, which has lots of Arctic culture. So, yeah, I find it very strange that this area is not considered Arctic, because really this area is Arctic. So, yeah, and here, Native American clothing. This is mainly animal hide and fur. This is mainly animal hide, fur, and various plant materials over here. See that the animal hide and fur? It's like cutting into this section. Here it's like cutting inside of it. So. And also this is clothing that's mainly cotton. A small area. Here are Native American housing. Teepee or cone-shaped structure made from animal skins in this area. There's a little bit of inconsistencies in this map. Like for other sections, like you can see that it's like there, 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 and there. So you can see, and also a little bit there as well. So you can see that all these areas have like different clothing and different cultures, because these cultures are definitely diverse. Native Americans are a very diverse culture. So that's something to note as well. For house shaped like a dome and covered with bark, mats, animal hides, and leaves, there's some here, and also for some reason a small section here, and also here as well. And also as well as here, in this area, like this is a little bit of a wonky shape. Like you can see that like this area, like it's a little bit mixed for types of housing. Like if you compare this, like this is a little bit like you can definitely see that there's a defined border over here. Like it's very well defined. But here, in different areas, like you don't know what you're gonna see. For a rectangular house with pointed leaf roofs, there's some over here. For pit houses that are partially underground, there's some here. That's an interesting way to live, but it's unique. And that's what we love about history. People have many unique cultures. For rectangular houses with flat roofs, there's some over here as well. You see a lot of them in the southwest area. For rectangular or houses with barrel-shaped roofs, you can see them in this area over here, mostly near the eastern woodlands. For rectangular houses made from long, flat pieces of wood, oh, I actually switched the slide. You can see they're mostly in the the northwest coast. You can mostly see that they're around here. And cone-shaped teepee made from bark, branches, or leaves. They're in this area. For some reason, not this area. Here, here as well. is a little bit split here. For some reason, a little bit over here as well, and also here. And for Native American food, here they mostly eat fish. Here, here, and here. Which you can see it's mostly at the coast because that's where most of the fish are at the ocean. I like how they say Gulf of Mexico here. Because it's the Gulf of Mexico. If you've seen the news recently, we're not going to talk more about it, but basically, yeah. And here, they mostly eat animals and meat, so it's a pretty large chunk with more, like, outliers here as well. Oh my gosh, I thought this was land for a second, but it's just sea. Here, there's also more there. Cultivated plants, there's some here, 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 like in this big large area, and it looks like someone took a bite out of this area over here. For wild plants like nuts, seeds, and berries, I'm actually allergic to nuts. There's some here in this area, a little bit of a wonky shape. As well as here and here. And balance of animals and wild plants. Here, and here. And for no dominant type, it's in this yellow area over here. And now we're going to get into, like, more cultural aspects now. The Arctic cultural region extends throughout the remote regions of Canada and Alaska. Much of the Arctic region is made up of tundra, which a type of climate zone with cold temperatures and no trees. In the winter, the Arctic region's temperatures are below freezing and are often accompanied by snowstorms. During the summer, the temperature is still cool, but the sun rarely sets fully, so it's often bright outside even at night. Because of these extreme conditions, very few people have called the Arctic cultural region home. During the summer, many tribes in the Arctic cultural region migrated to the tundra, following herds of caribou. Even though the sun was often out all day during the summer, the tundra remained very cold throughout the year. The cold climate often made finding food difficult in the tundra since few plants were able to survive the harsh environment. Throughout most of the year, the tundra was covered in a thick layer of frozen soil, which, in combination with the continuous daylight in summer and the powerful winds all year long, prevented many plants from surviving in the region. The vegetation that was hardly enough to survive the harsh conditions was usually inedible to humans. Without edible food to find or grow, these people of the region could not rely on agriculture to survive. This vegetation did, however, attract herds of caribou and other animals to the region. During the summer months, the people of the Arctic followed the caribou into the tundra for food. As winter approached, they could migrate to the coast of the Arctic Ocean and hunt sea mammals and fish. Though some Arctic people created large permanent settlements along the coast, many others migrated between the coast and tundra in search of food. As they did, their requirements for shelter changed. Scarce resources often influenced what kinds of shelters they could create as well. During the summer months, as they followed caribou through the tundra, people of the Arctic built movable animal skin tents. These tents provided shelter from the cold and harsh winds, but also allowed the people to easily follow the caribou herds. In the winter months, these tribes did not need to move as often in search of food. However, without trees, the options for shelter were limited. Many built temporary shelters called igloos out of blocks of snow or partially underground homes made of stone or soil. These shelters kept them warm during frigid winter. And also, here, you can take notes. We're gonna watch a brain pop about this, about the Inuit. So you can watch a video and have a more fun video to watch. So let's get to the brain pop. So let's watch this.
Hey, doing some ice fishing? You don't have to be sarcastic. I was just making conversation. Dear Tim and Moby, who are the Inuit? From Sam. The Inuit are a diverse group of people who live in the Arctic, the extremely cold region around the North Pole. Well, some Alaskan Inuit call themselves Eskimos, but in other areas, that's kind of an insulting term. The Inuit are actually made up of independent communities stretching over 3 different countries, Canada, Greenland, and the United States. Most of this land lies north of the Arctic tree line, an area so cold and dry, trees are unable to grow there. Yeah, it's one of the harshest environments humans have ever lived in. But the Inuit have thrived there for thousands of years. Their ancestors first settled in Alaska and slowly spread out from there. Like other native cultures, the Inuit have lived in close harmony with their environment. Because farming was impossible, early Inuit followed a nomadic lifestyle. That means they moved with the seasons, following the animals they depended on for food. Seals were the most common prey, but early Inuit also relied on fish, whales, walruses, caribou, and even polar bears for nourishment. All of that high-calorie, fatty food was essential for staying warm. And the blubber from the bears and sea mammals made great fuel for lamps and stoves. The animals' skins were used to make clothing, blankets, and tents. Yeah, that's kind of a misconception. Traditionally, the Inuit only lived in igloos during the winter months, and they were usually made of earth. Snow igloos were for temporary shelter on hunting trips. Transportation changed with the seasons for early Inuit too. In the winter, they used dog sleds. That made traveling over ice and snow easy, and the dogs could always find their way home, even in a blizzard. In the summer months, the Inuit traveled by kayak or umiak, 2 types of skin-covered boats. But the Inuits' most important survival tool was their sense of community. Families have always been close, with many generations living together or nearby. While fathers hunted and mothers prepared clothing and food, elders took care of the young, teaching them important skills. Hunters teamed up to keep each other safe on their long journeys. And they shared their food with everyone in the community, not just their own families. Well, for a long time, Europeans didn't have any use for the Arctic. But starting in the 19th century, whaling became a big business, and the Inuit were some of the best whale hunters in the world. So they took jobs on whaling boats as harpooners and navigators. At the same time, demands for furs and skins enticed Inuit hunters to trade with white men. With contact established, Inuit life began to change. Gradually, they came to rely on staples of Western culture. And in the 20th century, airplanes made Inuit land even more accessible. People from the south established settlements and schools, which Inuit children were forced to attend. The Inuit began living in modern homes, holding down jobs to pay for their new lifestyles. With each passing year, they lost more of their culture. Well, it's not like most Inuit wanted to go back to living as they used to, but their identity was slipping away. So, in the late 1970s, the Inuit Circumpolar Council was established to protect Inuit land and culture through government action. Since then, there's been a revival of Inuit cultural pride across the Arctic. More children are learning Inuktitut, the Inuit language, and finding out more about their history and customs. And Inuit family life is still strong, with elders passing on their knowledge to the next generation before it's lost. In 1999, Canada's Inuit won a major victory. They were given their own territory. Called Nunavut, it means our land in Inuktitut. Whoa. Jeez, we'd better get out of this cold water fast. Hey, would you quit calling me Einstein?
So yeah, this is a brain pop about the Inuit. So basically, this video here is basically like a brain pop to help you learn about Inuit culture. And now we're going to learn about the regions in the subarctic. I don't know if we'll have... You know what? We don't really have enough time to do that, so we can do that in the next lesson of the First Americans. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!